Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. It's day 2 of this Labour government's party conference and they are still shitting the bed.
Nigel Farage. We must call his scheme to round up and deport our French, our Indian, our Caribbean neighbours who already have indefinite leave to remain what it is. It is racist.
Remember yesterday when I said that Keir Starmer should not have said that the Reform Party's policy of scrapping indefinite leave to remain was racist? And I know that some of the comments I received basically said, Femi, this is what's wrong with you left-wing lunatics. Nothing's ever good enough for you. Well, this is precisely why. Because David Lammy is Labour's Deputy Prime Minister, and he just said that the Reform Party was being racist to French people. That's why yesterday I said, every time that a politician or a journalist calls something racist without backing it up with the facts that prove that the thing that they're calling racist is actually going to disproportionately hurt ethnic minorities, they weaken the fight against racism. And now Labour is going to have to defend the notion that French people are a persecuted race. All while giving the people who say, well, they call anything racist these days, infinite ammo for the rest of their lives. Like I said, making the fight against racism even harder. And you can argue that at least it's good that Labour's finally taking a stand against the rising tide of racism, but who is their audience? Who are they doing this for? Because if it's just about saying stuff that lefties like to hear, then this is just political point scoring. But if it's supposed to convince your average person who Nigel Farage might be trying to go after, then it's not going to work. Because you've just made it easier for those on the right to convince people that those of us who fight against racism are lunatics because we somehow think that French people are a persecuted race. And this is what pisses me off about Labour, because they clearly recognise the problem, but their solutions are all wrong. For example, the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, the start of her speech gave me so much hope. I was like, finally, somebody who gets it.
150,000 people marched through London. They did so under the banner of a convicted criminal and a former BNP member. It would be easy to dismiss this as nothing but an angry minority, heirs to the skinheads and the packy bashers of old. And make no mistake, some were. Patriotism, a force for good, is turning into something smaller, something more like ethno-nationalism, which struggles to accept that someone who looks like me and has a faith like mine can truly be English or British. There are some who we will never be able to persuade, but there are others, a growing number, who are on a path from patriotism towards ethno-nationalism. And this can be stopped. But to do so, we have to understand why so many people feel this country is not working for them.
Up to right there? Perfect. You have perfectly identified the rise of the far right in the UK. You said that it's born out of political frustration. All great. Now, what are the solutions you're pointing to?
People feel like things are spinning out of control. And without control, we simply do not have the conditions in which our country can be open, tolerant, and generous. When people see small boats arriving on our shores, they see a country that has lost control.
You can dress it up however you like, but you're still pointing to the idea that you can solve everybody's problems by simply getting rid of foreigners. And it's funny because in David Lammy's speech, he does actually argue that the proper Labour response to times like these is not to lean into bigotry, but to push for equality.
In 1967, the ugly rise of Enoch Powell. Did Wilson retreat? No. He championed the white heat of technology, the open university, the Equal Pay Act.
All while standing behind a guy who steals quotes from Enoch Powell's racist speeches. And let me give you an anecdote so you understand why I'm so pissed off here. During the referendum, David Cameron was facing a country that was going through a massive cost of living crisis as well. But that cost of living crisis was based on his policies around austerity. So after the financial crash, basically financially strangling the whole country to save money. And so while you had people like Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson saying, hey, all of you, you're all poor because of the EU stealing our money. What I would argue was the main reason that David Cameron lost that referendum was because he couldn't then turn around and say, hey, you're not poor because of the EU, you're poor because I made you poorer. He prioritized his own reputation over what was actually necessary for the people of the UK, and the same thing is happening here. Because Labour should be addressing people's real problems by taxing the rich, doing a wealth tax, undoing Brexit properly, because that is the biggest drain on our economy right now, costing the average household £1,000 a year, but they're refusing to do that because they're scared of the Daily Mail. And so instead, what are the solutions they can point to that won't get them in trouble with the Daily Mail? Getting rid of migrants. Once again, Labour is too scared to be progressive, and therefore they're leaning into the far right. And I'm not saying that anything that's strict on immigration is automatically far right, but when you push the idea that hostility towards foreigners and migrants is the only possible option to fix the country, far right politics becomes the only possible destination. And the Home Secretary goes on.
We will soon increase the time in which someone must have lived in this country to earn indefinite leave to remain from 5 years to 10. I will be proposing a series of new tests that you have truly given back to your community, such as by volunteering your time to a local cause.
Look, despite what the right would have you believe, being left-wing doesn't automatically mean that you support high levels of immigration. I don't have some ideological attachment to high levels of immigration. I just want to make sure that when people come here, they are treated properly. And so I am very curious to know if the plans to make it so that you have to be here for 10 years rather than 5 years in order to get indefinite leave to remain are going to apply to people that have already been here for ages. Because if this government is about to make it so that somebody who has been here for 4 years, expecting that after 5 years they can finally permanently reside here, is about to be told that they have to wait another 6 years, then fuck you. Because like I said, my priority with immigration is simply that we treat people that come here properly when they get here. Whatever hoops you want to make it so that people have to jump through in order to come and live here, that's fine. It's your own problem. If you want to damage the economy by making us less attractive to people that we need to come and work in our economy, that's up to you. But suddenly changing the rules on people who have spent years trying to build a life here is demonic shit. You do not beat the far right by becoming the far right. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.